Picture a world where the North Sea was not a barrier, but a bridge. As the year 1000 dawned, England's shores trembled at the sound of Nordic dragon ships cutting through the waters. But this time, it was not just another Viking raid. It marked the beginning of one of the Middle Ages' most fascinating stories. The High Middle Ages between 995 and 1035 witnessed a dramatic transformation in northern Europe. The Anglo-Saxon Kingdom of England stood as a wealthy yet vulnerable realm, its shores constantly threatened by Norse raiders from across the sea. Scandinavia, though often portrayed as merely the homeland of Vikings, was experiencing its own significant changes, with Christianity slowly making inroads into the pagan Norse culture. Three major powers shaped this era: the Anglo-Saxon Kingdom, with its sophisticated administrative system and established Christian culture; the Viking kingdoms, with their fearsome military might and mastery of the seas; and the Catholic Church, whose influence spread steadily northward, transforming societies in its wake. Life in this period was a fascinating blend of cultures. Bustling ports saw dragon-prowed longships alongside merchant vessels from across Europe. The distinctive curve of Viking ships' prows struck fear into coastal communities, while also serving as symbols of trade and cultural exchange. These ports were vital arteries of commerce, connecting the British Isles with Scandinavia and the European mainland. In the great halls of both Anglo-Saxon and Norse nobles, life centered around feasting and political gatherings. Mead halls, illuminated by torchlight and decorated with intricate tapestries, hosted warriors and nobles alike. The warm glow of hearth fires cast shadows on walls adorned with weapons and shields, while skalds recited ancient sagas and new tales of glory. The architectural landscape reflected this cultural merger. Stone churches, built in the Roman style favored by Anglo-Saxons, stood alongside Norse wooden structures with their characteristic steep roofs and dragon head decorations. This architectural diversity mirrored the broader cultural fusion taking place across England and the North Sea region. The clothing of the era spoke volumes about social status and cultural identity. Noble lords wore richly decorated brooches fastening fur-lined capes, while warriors donned mail shirts that represented both protection and status. Women of high rank dressed in flowing gowns with elaborate brooches and jewelry that combined both Anglo-Saxon and Norse designs. This was a world in transition, where the old ways of the Vikings began to merge with Christian European customs. The North Sea served not only as a highway for raiders and traders, but as a conduit for ideas, beliefs, and cultural practices that would reshape Northern Europe forever. This rich tapestry of cultural interaction and change formed the backdrop for Cnut the Great's remarkable rise to power and his subsequent transformation of England's political landscape. If you are passionate about the Middle Ages and want to embark on this historical journey with us, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the Medieval Archives channel so you don't miss any fascinating content. At the heart of this medieval saga stands Cnut the Great, a young Viking prince who would reshape English history. Born into the Danish royal family around 995, Cnut emerged from the shadow of his father, Sweyn Forkbeard, to become one of medieval England's most successful rulers. His transformation from a fierce Viking warrior to an enlightened Christian king represents one of history's most remarkable personal and political evolutions. Ethelred II, known as the Unready, more accurately translated as the Ill-Advised, ruled England during the tumultuous period of renewed Viking invasions. His reign was marked by poor decisions and political mismanagement, leading to a series of devastating Viking raids. Ethelred's infamous decision to order the St. Brice's Day massacre of Danish settlers in 1002 would have far-reaching consequences, eventually contributing to the Danish conquest of England. Emma of Normandy emerges as one of the most fascinating figures of this period. A Norman noblewoman of exceptional political acumen, she first married Ethelred II and later, in a masterful display of political survival, married Cnut after the Danish conquest. Through these marriages, she became twice Queen of England and played a crucial role in bridging the Anglo-Saxon and Danish cultures. Her influence extended beyond her marriages, as she became a powerful force in English politics and worked tirelessly to secure her children's interests. Archbishop Ælfhe stands as a pivotal religious figure who profoundly influenced Cnut's spiritual and political transformation. His martyrdom at the hands of Viking raiders in 1012 deeply impacted the young Cnut, who later showed great reverence for the archbishop's memory. Ælfhe's story became a symbol of the Christian values that Cnut would later embrace and promote throughout his realm. Edmund II Ironside, Ethelred's son, emerged as Cnut's primary rival for the English throne. A formidable warrior and skilled military commander, Edmund earned his nickname Ironside through his tenacious resistance to the Danish invasion. The brief but intense struggle between Cnut and Edmund in 1016 culminated in an agreement to divide the kingdom, only for Edmund's sudden death to leave Cnut as sole ruler of England. The Anglo-Saxon nobility initially viewed Cnut with deep suspicion and resistance. These powerful nobles, entrenched in their positions and traditions, represented a significant challenge to Cnut's authority. However, through a combination of force, diplomacy, and cultural adaptation, Cnut gradually won their support and respect. Cnut's own Viking background presented perhaps his most complex challenge. The very qualities that had brought him to power, his Viking heritage and military prowess, now threatened to undermine his legitimacy as a Christian Anglo-Saxon king. He had to carefully balance maintaining his authority over his Viking followers while transforming himself into an acceptable English ruler. The interactions between these key figures created a complex web of relationships that would define English politics for generations. Their personal ambitions, fears, and decisions shaped not only their own destinies but the future of England itself. Through their stories, we see how individual personalities and choices can profoundly impact the course of history. The story of Cnut the Great centers around one of history's most remarkable transformations, how a Viking conqueror evolved into a respected Christian king. This central narrative encompasses several interwoven themes that reflect the complex nature of medieval power, identity, and social change. Cnut's journey from Viking prince to English king represents an extraordinary personal metamorphosis. Upon gaining the throne through conquest, he faced the monumental task of shifting from warrior to statesman. This transformation wasn't merely superficial. It required a fundamental change in leadership style, from the Norse tradition of warrior kings to the Anglo-Saxon model of Christian kingship. Cnut had to learn new ways of wielding power, embracing diplomacy over force, and governing through law rather than might alone. The period marked a unique moment of cultural convergence between Viking and Anglo-Saxon societies. Rather than simply imposing Danish culture, Cnut orchestrated a delicate balance between two distinct worlds. He maintained Viking military practices while adopting Anglo-Saxon administrative systems. His court became a melting pot where Norse skalds shared space with Christian clerics, and where Anglo-Saxon laws merged with Danish customs. The question of legitimate rule stood at the heart of Cnut's reign. How could a foreign conqueror establish legitimate authority over a sophisticated kingdom? Cnut approached this challenge through multiple strategies, maintaining strong military presence while developing civilian administration, marrying Emma of Normandy to create dynastic legitimacy, adopting and enhancing Anglo-Saxon legal traditions, building alliances with the church and native nobility, creating a new Anglo-Danish aristocracy. Religion played a crucial role in Cnut's transformation and legitimization. His embrace of Christianity was both political necessity and personal journey. He demonstrated his faith through generous donations to monasteries and churches, patronage of religious manuscripts and art, pilgrimage to Rome in 1027, protection of clergy and church properties, promotion of Christian values in his laws and decrees. The fundamental challenge facing Cnut was reconciling his violent conquest with legitimate Christian kingship. This manifested in several ways: leadership style, balancing the expectations of his Viking warriors with the administrative needs of a Christian kingdom; cultural integration, creating unity between Danish and Anglo-Saxon populations without alienating either; religious authority, establishing himself as a Christian king while maintaining authority over his pagan followers; political legitimacy, converting military success into accepted political power. Cnut's solution to these conflicts was remarkably sophisticated. He retained enough of his Viking identity to command respect from his Danish followers while adopting Anglo-Saxon customs and Christian practices to win acceptance from his English subjects. He understood that true power lay not just in military might, but in cultural and religious legitimacy. His success in resolving these conflicts created a model of multicultural kingship that was ahead of its time. He demonstrated that legitimate authority could be built on a foundation of conquest through careful attention to local customs, religious sensitivity, and administrative competence. The resolution of these themes and conflicts had lasting implications for English history. Cnut's reign showed that foreign conquest need not lead to cultural obliteration. and that different traditions could be successfully merged to create something new and valuable. His example would influence later rulers facing similar challenges of legitimacy and cultural integration. Life in early 11th century England was a dynamic blend of Anglo-Saxon and Norse influences, creating a vibrant and evolving social landscape during the reign of King Cnut. This period saw the merging of two distinct cultures, shaped by both conflict and cooperation. Daily interactions between Anglo-Saxons and Norse settlers varied depending on the region. In urban areas, particularly within the Danelaw, communities began developing shared customs and practices. Markets became bustling hubs where goods and ideas were exchanged. Over time, even intermarriage between these groups, though initially rare, became more common, especially among the nobility, further blending the cultures. The church played a pivotal role in shaping social order and community life. Local parishes served as centers where Anglo-Saxon and Danish communities gathered for religious services. These spaces also became venues for important announcements, basic education, legal deliberations, and community celebrations. Monasteries, meanwhile, acted as repositories of knowledge and administrative centers, preserving records and providing structure to the growing and changing society. The Danelaw, more than just a legal framework, reflected a distinct way of life that had evolved through years of Norse settlement. Local assemblies, known as things, were where legal disputes were settled. The Danelaw also introduced different compensation systems for crimes, unique property rights, and special protections for Anglo-Saxon and Danish merchants alike. Over time, modified versions of Anglo-Saxon administrative systems helped streamline governance, reflecting the gradual integration of the two cultures. Coastal towns and ports became vibrant centers of maritime commerce and cultural exchange. These bustling ports featured marketplaces where traders from across northern Europe haggled over goods, shipyards where Viking longships and merchant vessels were maintained, and warehouses storing products from distant lands. The architecture of these towns combined elements of Norse and Anglo-Saxon styles, while the daily life of these communities was a kaleidoscope of activity: dawn-to-dusk trading, multilingual negotiations, and sailors sharing tales of their voyages. Religious life in these ports reflected the blending of cultures, with observances held in both Christian churches and, in some areas, Norse temples. Cultural integration flourished, as pagan and Christian practices blended to create unique expressions of art, storytelling, and traditions. Religious festivals often combined Christian celebrations with Norse customs, while artwork merged Christian symbols with Norse designs. Songs and stories incorporated elements from both traditions, and funeral practices reflected this blending, honoring aspects of each culture. Even dietary habits evolved, showcasing influences from Anglo-Saxon and Norse preferences. Social classes in Cnut's England remained clearly defined. The nobility, which now included both Anglo-Saxon and Danish elites, held the highest status. Clergy members gained increasing influence within society. Below them were free merchants, craftsmen, farmers, and laborers, while slaves, though their numbers were declining, occupied the lowest rung. Urban areas, with their mixed populations and bustling economies, contrasted sharply with rural regions, where life remained more traditional and tied to agriculture. Family life and gender roles during this period reflected the merging of the two cultures. Women held relatively high status in both Anglo-Saxon and Norse traditions, and children grew up hearing stories and legends from both heritages. Household management and marriage customs began to integrate practices from both cultures, reflecting the growing unity of these once separate peoples. The social fabric of Cnut's England is a testament to how two distinct cultures, through cooperation and adaptation, can merge into something entirely new. Though not without its challenges, this blending created a dynamic and vibrant society, the influence of which would shape English culture for generations to come. So, which do you think was more difficult, conquering England or gaining the respect of the Anglo-Saxons? Comment below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the Medieval Archives channel. The tale of Cnut the Great is marked by several pivotal moments that shaped not only his reign, but the future of England itself. The story begins with the invasion of England alongside his father, Sweyn Forkbeard, in 1013. This campaign was not merely another Viking raid, but a full-scale invasion aimed at conquering the English throne. Young Cnut witnessed firsthand the complex military and political maneuvering that would later inform his own leadership style. Following Sweyn's unexpected death in 1014, Cnut faced his first major challenge. Initially forced to retreat to Denmark, he returned in 1015 with a formidable army. The subsequent campaign demonstrated his military prowess and strategic thinking. This period of conflict culminated in the decisive confrontation with Edmund Ironside in 1016, featuring a series of battles that tested both leaders' abilities to their limits. The death of Edmund II Ironside marked a crucial turning point. What began as an agreement to divide the kingdom between the two rulers transformed into complete control for Cnut upon Edmund's passing. This moment represented not just a military victory, but the beginning of Cnut's transformation from conqueror to king. Cnut's strategic marriage to Emma of Normandy in 1017 proved to be a masterful political move. Emma, the widow of Athelred the Unready, brought legitimacy to Cnut's reign and helped bridge the gap between the Anglo-Saxon nobility and their new Danish ruler. This union also secured important diplomatic ties with Normandy, protecting England's southern flank. Perhaps the most famous episode of Cnut's reign was the legendary tide story. According to chroniclers, Cnut had his throne placed on the seashore and commanded the incoming tide to halt. When the waters continued to rise, soaking his feet and legs, he used this moment to demonstrate to his courtiers that even a king's power was limited compared to God's. This event, whether historical or apocryphal, perfectly illustrates Cnut's understanding of power's limitations and his clever use of symbolic gestures. Cnut's pilgrimage to Rome in 1027 represented another significant milestone. This journey was both a religious undertaking and a diplomatic triumph. In Rome, he attended the coronation of Conrad II as Holy Roman Emperor, participated in diplomatic negotiations with other European rulers, and secured favorable terms for English travelers and merchants. His meetings with Pope John XIX enhanced England's standing within Christian Europe and further legitimized his rule. Throughout these years, Cnut demonstrated remarkable political acumen by balancing various competing interests. He maintained his hold over his North Sea empire while adapting to local customs and traditions. He retained enough of his Viking heritage to command respect from his Danish followers while embracing Anglo-Saxon and Christian practices to win acceptance from his English subjects. Each of these turning points contributed to Cnut's remarkable transformation from Viking raider to respected Christian king. His reign demonstrates how military conquest could be transformed into legitimate rule through careful attention to local customs, religious sensitivity, and administrative competence. The England that emerged from these events was stronger, more unified, and more connected to continental Europe than ever before. Through careful diplomacy, military strength, and cultural adaptation, Cnut created a unique Anglo-Scandinavian culture that would influence English society for generations to come. His story serves as a testament to the power of political wisdom and cultural integration in building lasting legacies. The era of Cnut the Great witnessed a remarkable fusion of cultural and intellectual traditions, creating a unique Anglo-Scandinavian society that would leave an indelible mark on English history. This period saw the emergence of a distinctive cultural synthesis that combined Viking vigor with Anglo-Saxon sophistication. In the realm of cultural fusion, Viking and Anglo-Saxon traditions merged in fascinating ways. The great halls of England hosted both Anglo-Saxon poets reciting verses in Old English and Norse skalds performing ancient sagas. Feasting customs blended both traditions, with mead halls serving as centers of political discourse and cultural exchange. The Viking love of storytelling and heroic tales merged seamlessly with Anglo-Saxon literary traditions, creating new forms of narrative expression. The Church played a pivotal role in shaping the intellectual landscape of Cnut's England. Monasteries served as centers of learning, where monks painstakingly copied and preserved both religious texts and secular works. These scriptoria produced beautifully illuminated manuscripts that combined Anglo-Saxon artistic traditions with Norse decorative elements. The Church also provided the administrative framework that helped Cnut govern his vast realm, with clergy serving as royal officials and advisors. Literary achievements during this period were particularly noteworthy. The Anglo-Saxon chronicles continued to be maintained and expanded, now incorporating accounts of Danish rule with remarkable objectivity. New entries reflected the changing political landscape while maintaining the traditional chronicling style. Poetry flourished, with works like the Encomium Emmy Regini presenting a sophisticated blend of Anglo-Saxon and Norse literary conventions. This period also saw the creation of legal codes and royal proclamations that combined Anglo-Saxon legal traditions with Danish customs. Artistic expression during Cnut's reign reflected the cultural synthesis of the era. Church architecture incorporated both Anglo-Saxon building techniques and Norse decorative elements. Manuscript illumination featured intricate patterns that merged the serpentine designs of Viking art with Christian iconography. Metalwork showed particular innovation, with jewelry and ceremonial objects displaying a distinctive fusion of styles. Stone sculpture combined traditional Anglo-Saxon cross designs with Norse dragon motifs and interlace patterns. The development of language during this period proved especially significant. Old English absorbed numerous Norse words and expressions, particularly in the areas of law, warfare, and daily life. Many common English words we use today entered the language during this period of cultural contact. The Norse influence extended beyond vocabulary to syntax and grammar, contributing to the gradual simplification of Old English's complex grammatical system. Religious practice also evolved during this period. While Christianity remained the dominant faith, elements of Norse religious tradition were subtly incorporated into local customs and celebrations. Church festivals sometimes coincided with traditional Norse observances, creating unique hybrid celebrations. Religious art often featured Norse decorative elements while maintaining Christian themes and symbolism. Intellectual life flourished under Cnut's patronage. His court attracted scholars from across Europe, creating a cosmopolitan atmosphere where ideas were exchanged freely. The king's support for learning and the arts helped maintain England's position as a center of intellectual activity in Northern Europe. Cnut's own letters and proclamations reveal a sophisticated understanding of political theory and Christian kingship. The educational system, primarily operated through monasteries and cathedral schools, continued to develop. These institutions preserved classical learning while incorporating new ideas and perspectives from Scandinavian culture. The training of clergy and administrators ensured the continuation of effective governance and intellectual development. In craftsmanship and technology, the period saw significant advances. Viking shipbuilding techniques influenced English maritime technology, while Anglo-Saxon metalworking traditions contributed to the development of new artistic styles. The period witnessed innovations in urban planning, fortification design, and agricultural practices that combined the best of both cultures. This cultural and intellectual synthesis created during Cnut's reign would have lasting effects on English society. The fusion of Viking and Anglo-Saxon elements created a unique cultural foundation that would influence English development for centuries to come. The period demonstrates how cultural contact, even when initiated through conquest, can lead to remarkable artistic and intellectual achievements when managed with wisdom and respect for different traditions. During Cnut's reign, England emerged as a major player in European politics, developing a complex web of international relationships that transformed the kingdom's role in medieval Europe. This network of alliances, diplomatic ties, and trade relationships helped establish England as a prominent power in the North Sea region and beyond. The alliance with the Holy Roman Empire stood as one of Cnut's most significant diplomatic achievements. His presence at Emperor Conrad II's coronation in Rome in 1027 marked a pivotal moment in Anglo-imperial relations. This partnership was reinforced through diplomatic exchanges and mutual support, creating a power balance that helped stabilize Northern Europe. The relationship proved particularly valuable in managing trade routes and maintaining peace along the North Sea coast. Relations with the Roman Church represented another crucial aspect of Cnut's international policy. His pilgrimage to Rome in 1027 was a masterful combination of religious devotion and diplomatic pragmatism. During this journey, he negotiated several important agreements with Pope John XIX, including reduced fees for English pilgrims visiting Rome and the establishment of better treatment for English clergy in papal territories. These negotiations demonstrated Cnut's diplomatic skill and his understanding of the Church's crucial role in medieval politics. Commercial relationships flourished under Cnut's rule. His control over the North Sea created a vast trading network stretching from England to Scandinavia and beyond. English ports became bustling centers of international trade, where merchants from across Europe gathered to exchange goods. Trade relations extended to the Low Countries, where English wool found eager markets. The Rhine Valley, providing access to German and Central European trade. The Baltic region, opening new opportunities for English merchants. The Mediterranean, through Italian traders visiting English ports. Cnut's influence in Scandinavia remained strong throughout his reign. His position as King of Denmark allowed him to maintain close ties with his ancestral homeland while introducing English and Christian influences to the region. This cultural exchange worked both ways, with Scandinavian artistic styles and cultural practices enriching English society. His control over Norway, though sometimes contested, further enhanced this Nordic connection. Relations with Normandy proved particularly delicate and strategic. His marriage to Emma of Normandy helped secure England's southern flank and created a diplomatic bridge to continental Europe. This relationship became increasingly important as Norman power grew in northern France. Cnut's careful management of this relationship helped maintain peace in the Channel region, crucial for English trade and security. The sophistication of Cnut's diplomatic network is evident in his letter to his English subjects written from Rome in 1027. In it, he describes meetings with various European rulers and negotiations for improved conditions for English travelers and merchants throughout Europe. This document reveals his grasp of international diplomacy and his commitment to advancing English interests abroad. Under Cnut's rule, England developed robust diplomatic protocols and practices. His court became a model of international diplomacy, where representatives from various European powers would gather. He maintained a network of ambassadors and messengers who kept him informed of developments across Europe and helped maintain his diplomatic relationships. Currency exchange and monetary policies reflected these international connections. English silver pennies became widely accepted across northern Europe, facilitating trade and economic growth. Cnut's careful management of the English monetary system helped maintain its stability and international acceptability. Cultural exchange flourished under these international connections. English craftsmen incorporated continental styles, while European artisans brought new techniques to England. Religious practices, architectural styles, and literary traditions all showed the influence of these international connections. These external interactions and influences helped transform England from an island kingdom into a central player in medieval European politics. Cnut's diplomatic achievement lay not just in establishing these relationships, but in maintaining them through a careful balance of power, prestige, and mutual benefit. His reign marked England's emergence as a truly international power, setting patterns of diplomatic and commercial interaction that would influence English foreign policy for centuries to come. Trade agreements and economic partnerships formed a crucial part of these international relationships. Cnut established protected trading routes across the North Sea, standardized weights and measures to facilitate international trade, trade agreements with various European powers, security arrangements for merchants traveling through his territories. Military alliances complemented these diplomatic and commercial relationships. Cnut maintained a powerful fleet that helped secure trade routes and project power across the North Sea. This naval strength, combined with diplomatic skill, helped prevent potential threats and maintain peace in the region. Cnut the Great's enduring legacy extends far beyond his lifetime, shaping not only medieval England, but leaving lasting implications for European history. His reign provides a fascinating case study in leadership, cultural integration, and political transformation that continues to resonate with modern audiences. The unification of the North Sea under Cnut's rule created an unprecedented maritime empire that transformed northern European politics and commerce. This achievement established new patterns of trade and cultural exchange that would influence the region for centuries. His empire demonstrated how maritime connections could unite diverse peoples and territories, creating prosperity through controlled sea routes and protected commerce. Perhaps Cnut's most significant legacy lies in his modernization of English administration. He retained and enhanced Anglo-Saxon governmental systems while introducing innovative elements from Scandinavian traditions. His legal codes demonstrated remarkable sophistication, combining English and Danish law into a coherent system that promoted justice and social stability. This administrative framework proved so effective that it survived long after his death, influencing English governance for generations. The successful cultural integration achieved during Cnut's reign stands as a remarkable example of medieval statecraft. His ability to merge Viking and Anglo-Saxon traditions created a unique Anglo-Scandinavian society that enriched both cultures. This achievement offers valuable lessons for modern discussions about cultural integration and social harmony. His reign demonstrated how strong leadership could transform potential conflict into cultural synthesis. Cnut's influence on English identity proved particularly profound. His reign helped shape England's self-perception as a nation connected to both Northern Europe and the continent. The Anglo-Scandinavian culture that emerged during his rule contributed significantly to English language, law, and customs. Many English institutions and traditions can trace their roots to this period of cultural fusion. His approach to leadership provides enduring lessons about adaptation and governance. Cnut's transformation from Viking warrior to Christian king exemplifies how leaders can successfully adapt to new circumstances while maintaining authority. His careful balance of force and diplomacy, tradition and innovation, offers insights still relevant to modern leadership. The religious aspects of Cnut's legacy merit special attention. His support for the church and promotion of Christian values, while respecting existing traditions, demonstrated remarkable religious statesmanship. His pilgrimage to Rome and subsequent diplomatic achievements show how religious devotion could be combined with practical politics. From an economic perspective, Cnut's reign established patterns of international trade and monetary policy that influenced medieval commerce for centuries. His stabilization of the North Sea region created conditions for economic growth and prosperity that benefited all his territories. The commercial networks established during his reign laid foundations for later medieval trade. Cnut's architectural legacy can still be seen in surviving churches and monuments from his era. His patronage of religious buildings and support for architectural innovation helped develop the distinctive Anglo-Scandinavian style that characterized 11th century English architecture. These physical reminders of his reign continue to influence our understanding of medieval culture. Modern scholarship continues to find new significance in Cnut's achievements. His reign provides valuable insights into topics ranging from political leadership to cultural integration, from religious tolerance to economic development. Each generation seems to find new relevance in his story, demonstrating the enduring value of studying this remarkable period. Cnut's legacy reminds us that true leadership transcends origins and backgrounds. His transformation from conqueror to respected ruler demonstrates how wisdom, adaptation, and cultural sensitivity can create lasting positive change. His reign shows that even in times of dramatic social transformation, skillful leadership can turn potential conflict into constructive cultural synthesis. The story of Cnut the Great remains powerfully relevant today. In an era grappling with questions of cultural integration, political leadership, and international cooperation, his reign offers valuable insights and inspiring examples. His success in building bridges between different cultures and traditions speaks directly to contemporary challenges and aspirations. Through examining Cnut's legacy, we gain not just historical knowledge but practical wisdom about leadership, cultural adaptation, and social transformation. His reign stands as a testament to the possibility of positive change through enlightened leadership and cultural understanding. If you were impressed by Cnut's story, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the Medieval Archives channel.